As a famous man once said, that is why we play the games. Mike Robinson joins us now, and Mike Rob, everybody thought Toledo was going to win quite easily last week. That is not what happened. Anything that could have gone wrong for the Rockets outside of maybe the bus breaking on the way down did go wrong. Just too many things to go wrong, particularly in that first half, that just kind of set the Rockets back, and they just could never get back in stride.
You know what? Every time I go into Bowling Green Stadium, I just get this eerie feeling. And I think it just comes back to me from when I was coaching in high school at Central Catholic and we lost to Clyde because the stadium was like a wind tunnel. Field goal kickers couldn't make kicks, punts, all that. Everything that went wrong on special teams went wrong. And, you know, and I had a conversation with Thomas Clucky before the game started, and I said, this place is a wind tunnel. So when you're kicking the ball, just, you know, think about that as you're kicking. Like, you never know which way the wind's blowing. Special teams disaster. Maybe I jinxed them by speaking to them. I don't think that's really what happened. I think that Bowling Green came up and ready to play football. They put all their eggs in one basket, and it was a Toledo basket.
Well, and not only did Clucky have issues, but twice Toledo receivers had issues on kicks, which pinned Toledo deep into their own territory when they couldn't afford to give up that field position.
Yeah, you know, and they had 5 total special teams mistakes in the first half, and all 5 of them, they should have been blown out in the first half, but they still battled back. But like I said, the credit goes to Bowling Green. It was their night. It was their night. They came out. They played hard. They had all the people that we talked about getting honored out there. And the one thing that stood out to me was just the energy level of the Bowling Green football sideline. Every third down, they're excited. Fourth down, fist goes up. We're letting them know it's fourth down. That's what really stood out to me, is just how they came out ready to play this football game, and Toledo just seemed shell-shocked on the sideline.
Another thing that did not help the Rockets' cause, Mitchell Guadani went down with an injury in the second half, so they had to go with a backup. Going forward, we've seen Guadani, he's missed time. He missed time last year, missed time beginning of this season. It's become very evident that keeping Mitchell Guadani healthy is imperative for Toledo's success, yet at the same time, what makes him a successful quarterback is getting outside the pocket, running, and that's where he's gotten hurt.
You know, and it's just unfortunate, you know, because you see the string of a lot of different athletes who like to get outside the pocket and run the football. And Mitch Guadani is just one of those kids who loves that. You know, in high school at Hudson, he did a lot of that. He got out the pocket. He beat a lot of people with his feet. The collegiate level is a lot different because you're just that more valuable to the program, as we see. You know, with his list of injuries, you start to wonder, you know, like, Toledo has to really have a solid number 2 quarterback ready to go. You saw 3 quarterbacks play that game, so you can see that there's still some uncertainty who they really trust as the next guy up in that program. You got some pretty good football players, but it's definitely a question of concern for Toledo if they can't keep Mitch Guadani healthy.
One thing all football coaches are certain of, you've got to focus on the next game. You can't allow a loss to snowball, and I think that's the concern of this Toledo Rocket team right now. You celebrate a win for 24 hours, you mourn a defeat for 24 hours, then you got to move forward. Mentally, is this Rocket team going to be able to move forward and take on Ball State on Saturday?
They got another quarterback that can do the same thing, a little bit more of the same. He can throw the ball, he can run the ball, and we saw, you know, and give props to Lloyd. You know, what he did was go out there and he rushed for more than whole Toledo offense. You know, he did a heck of a job, and Toledo's vice has been stopping running quarterbacks. So every time a running quarterback gets in, whether it was last year at at Eastern Michigan, you know, quarterback goes down, who comes in? Glass. He wasn't made of glass. He was fast. He ran for a lot of yards against Toledo, and those are the things that the Rockets defense have to figure out, is you got to stop the quarterback power, and you got to find a way to, you know, make those adjustments and have them stick, because that's the big thing right now for this team is, can your adjustments match up, or can the player just step up and play, or are we not good enough? You know, that's the question that creeps in the back of your mind as well, is are we even good enough? But I don't think that's the case for this football team. They're still favored to win the game at Ball State, but they got to come out here with the edge, and that's from the snap of the ball to the end of the game. You know, you got to come out here and play football, because everybody knows there's some chinks in the armor, and they know where to attack Toledo.
This is an important game, not only because it is the next game for the Rockets, but Ball State is currently in first place in the MAC West. So if the Rockets can knock off Ball State, all of a sudden that MAC West is back open again, and there remains a path for Toledo to get to Detroit.
Yeah, you know, and this all hope is in loss. We know that the loss of BG was very important to the city of Toledo, and for Toledo to lose that game, it just felt like a weight just fell on them. And you talked about it on Twitter about a lot of people were eating crow. Yeah, you had a whole a whole region eating crow, and down there in that small area called Bowling Green, you had a lot of people who were serving it. So the good thing is Toledo has an opportunity to make this thing right. I think Toledo still have the better team. The defense still played well, and even through all the adversity, they didn't lose the game by a lot of points. They lost the game because they couldn't, the lack of offense, the turnovers, fumbling the football, not keeping the football, and extending drives. But more importantly, like I said, last week, credit goes to Bowling Green. They did a lot of things that you didn't see on film, and they did this intentionally because they knew no other game this season really mattered besides that one. So heading into Ball State, they have to understand this is another business trip. You got, like I said, the 24-hour rule. I don't think the 24-hour rule is really in effect because it's still lingering, and that's going to linger for 365 days. And so you got to find a way to jump that hump, and I think that Toledo will by basically coming out here this week and really locking in and having a solid week of practice, because somebody mentioned it. There's a lot of headlines about Toledo football players last week. So if you think the players got their heads too high, egos, we got to get at the blade a little bit and say, Bryce Mitchell this player that, 10-year streak, and kids read those. These aren't kids, these are adults. They read the paper, they look at the news, they see what's happening. So we got to find a way to not allow that to kind of creep in, because I do think the doubt that BG wasn't any good crept in their head and really stuck with them, thinking that they can go ahead and roll this team because they weren't any good. Now, that's a good football team on that night. Now, what they do for the rest of the year, we don't know. But for Ball State, Plitt is going to come out here and do a really good job and throw the football. Last 2 years ago when he stepped in and took over the reign, he had a lot of ability.
Yeah. You touched on it. Bowling Green kind of exposed a weakness to the Toledo defense, particularly with a rushing quarterback. Grant Loy, fantastic job. Is that something that now Toledo is aware of and they can fix that going forward? Because that's going to be something that's going to be tested this week.
Well, I think it's something they've been aware of. I mean, you just look at years back, the Northern Illinois and the Western Michigans of the world. How did these teams really beat us? Ohio University. You just run power football, and that's what's been a key for teams is, what Bowling Green did was they stretched you east and west, and then they hit you north-south with the quarterback, and then there's nobody there for the quarterback because you're stretching your team, seeing the jet sweep come. So how do you stop these plays? And that's the one thing you got to do. We see it happen on the high school level all the time. One man can beat you in the collegiate level. It's the same thing. You run a power scheme, and you get one guy isolated, and Grant Loy is a man that can run the football, and we've seen that Toledo has to find a way to stop that. And if they can't stop the quarterback run, you're going to see it all year long, Mark.
What do the Rockets need to do this Saturday to get the win and wipe out the bad taste?
I think they just got to come focus and play Rocket football. I mean, all isn't lost. We had 4 straight victories, right? And you had one game where you played very well against a Kentucky football team. This is a program that has a lot of good football players, and now we just kind of forget about them because one loss will make you do that. You say, wow, are we even any good? Is Hines any good anymore? Is Guadani good? Is Kovac, he's going to fumble the ball? I think all that snowballs, and in that locker room, those kids are saying, we are better than this. We are better than what we display, and you know what? We got to come out here and prove it. It's a lot of seniors there in that offensive line. They got a lot of work to get done, and I think they're going to come out this week ready to rock and roll. So key things they need to do is protect the football. Special teams need to tighten up. They need to make sure they are on their A game on special teams, because people are going to look at that now and say, hey, this is a chink in the armor. And lastly, the defense need to get off the field. I think they were on the field for quite a while. The battle of possession was about 30 minutes apiece. You can't leave your defense on the field that long because mistakes are going to happen. All
right, thank you very much, Mike Robinson from the Toledo Rocket Radio Network. Catch him on the airwaves. He'll be on the sidelines as the Rockets take on Ball State this coming Saturday. We're going to take a break here on College Football Weekly. We'll be right back.